And this bit is always worth it, which is the final wrapping up. It just leaves me to introduce the most intelligent woman in the team. 7 of 9.
Thank you, Martin, for overseeing the day superbly, and to all of our speakers today. Next up is Lucy Jeynes, who does something even I can't do yet. Although I will be writing a piece in the white paper based on key phrases of the day. Lucy is now going to summarize the day's presentations. What is her call to action for you all to take away with you?
I'm going to beat her in a fight. I know that I am the only thing standing between you and a glass of wine, and I'm also the only thing standing between me and a glass of wine, which is far more important. So I am going to do the fastest summing up I have ever done. I'm still going to include everything I'm supposed to, but we're going to rip through it so we can get at the alcohol. Isn't it interesting that at a technology conference we get introduced by 7 of 9, and for the first time ever we've welcomed the devices and humans watching through the cloud, and maybe in the future that is another group of audience that we will always need to thank, and she thanks us for inviting her to our reality. So the key themes that we've covered today, we've looked at people and technology, or people versus technology. We've looked at artificial intelligence versus real stupid. What a great conjunction there. We've talked about mixed and augmented reality and the metaverse, that data is the new oil. That's a really good analogy, isn't it? Because you can use oil for lots of things, but in its raw state, it's not very useful. We talked about that gap between the aspiration and the reality, the possibilities of technology, and yet the current workplaces and FM practices that we still see a lot. And we've asked some questions like who benefits? How does technology benefit our customers or our colleagues? How do you make the office better than staying at home? And the FM is on the edge of a cliff, because if only half the space and services are going to be needed and there's going to be a flight to quality, we are back on the good old burning platform, and we don't seem to be recognising that this time, so we need to think about that and get on with it. So after we were beautifully introduced by Martin, who talked a lot about our kind of old man sandwich that we had. It wouldn't be an FM event if it wasn't kind of showcasing a load of old fellas, would it? But, you know, we're getting there, The internet, the IoT is continually singing its data, but we have to decide when and how often we're going to listen and what we're going to do with that data, and that was a theme that was woven throughout the day, wasn't it? So we started with Lionel, Agents for RM, the influence of technology over the years. He took us through the FM timeline, a journey many of us has travelled, but looking at the acceleration of technology in recent years. And one of the things that Lionel has learned is that it's hard to predict which new technology is going to fly. I remember when Lionel had his kind of work in the car thing, where he got this big car and he set it all up with an office in the back, and he was going to work in there, and it was going to be really cool. But it was kind of before Wi-Fi really existed, and it didn't work without the engine on, and there wasn't any connectivity. But it was the future, and now everybody does that. But when he did it, it didn't work. And I think a lot of technology is like that, isn't it? You start it, you try it, you're too early, it doesn't work. Later you think, yeah, of course, that's the way forward. We then had Nigel Warwick from Cadline talking about today's technology journey in FM. 95.5% of data captured in FM goes unused. I don't know about you, but I was not surprised about that as a consultant. He had a good example of a point cloud conversion to Revit, and we like that because when you come to a tech conference, you want to see the thing, and he showed us the thing, and that was great. Digitalization, he said, will allow us to achieve more with less, and of course we came back to that lots of times, didn't we? Graham Perry from Daytor, actions speak louder than dashboards, says technology will increase and will impact customer expectations and the way we'll deliver our services. But we don't need to build every step of the data journey ourselves. We can look at data as a service, because what we need really as FMs is the answer to the big so what? Another question that we kept coming back to. We then had Peter Ankerstjärn from Planon talking about leveraging the workplace experience in a hybrid world. We're rethinking the purpose of the workplace. How will technology impact the future of work? And how can technology support hybrid working, which is normal now? It's about effective use of space, reduction of cost, and optimizing experience. He said 74% of CEOs he's seeing are seeing an opportunity to reduce space. We talked about 40% reduction in occupancy. You know, there's some big numbers there about the reduction of space that we're supporting. We had Simi Gandhi-Whittaker next from Mighty, talking about technology, tools or toys. Some great questions in there. What problem are we trying to solve? Have you got the right technology and data to optimize your workspaces? And is this technology a tool or is it a toy? Use the tools, but bring me the intelligence. And there's a great learning there, isn't there, about it isn't a toy, but do play with it to find out how you can use it. Don't be afraid to play with the tech and try it out and get it in the sandbox. And next we had Mikel Vida-Trillia from CBRE. He didn't quite win the bid. It was close, but he didn't win the bid. Talking about the industrial metaverse augmented future. For the metaverse to work, it has to make your physical life better, cheaper, faster, and more connected. He talked about the walled gardens, that the metaverse is separate metaverses at the moment, the personal one, the commercial one, and the industrial one. And it's the industrial one that we're using in FM. And that we're on a stepping stone towards that mixed reality with digital objects layered around the user, and that's how we're most likely to be starting to use that metaverse technology in FM at the moment, rather than kind of going the full big picture. We then have Simone Fenton-Jarvis from the Human-Centric Workplace talking about people. What is the why of the workplace? And how is technology forming a part of this jigsaw? And that links in with Simi's question about what problem are you trying to solve? So when you go to work in the office or the metaverse, don't forget to be a human. Because despite being more connected than ever, people feel more disconnected and lonely than ever. And so I think it is that interface between technology and humanity. And it was good that we had somebody talking about the humans, because it's not all about the machines and the robots. We're talking about an industry that is peopled by people and is full of customers who are people as well. So we can't lose sight of that human element when we're thinking about technology. We then had the Technology and FM Award. I've been a judge on this award for a number of years, and I was glad that we got a chance to see that SoftBank Robotics H3 Zoom piece of technology a little bit more later. Using drones and employing AI to survey external buildings is safer, more accurate, practical and faster. And when we saw that entry, we thought everyone's just going to do it like that in the future, because it's a much better way of doing it. It's more reliable and it's safer. So that's the kind of technology where you think, I haven't seen that before, but I'm going to see it a lot in the future. And then we had lunch, didn't we? And then we had our afternoon keynote with Tim Oldman from Leesman. 1 million people responding to the survey now. I remember when we first met Tim and he said he aims to have 100,000 responses. So what a great success. Half the space and twice the experience. This is something that as FMs we really need to be thinking about this, don't we? People come to the workplace to connect, not to collaborate. What a good point. And that the future is hybrid, and we're not really discussing enough the impact of the change that there's going to be about the amount of space and how good it needs to be, and that flight to quality and what's going to happen to the rest of the space that isn't meeting those requirements. We then had Mark Davenport from Equans delivering the digital transition. That was a case study of 12 King Street in Leeds, the largest cross-functional wireless infrastructure in Europe. Really hammering home the point that it needs to be smart right from initial design and not as an afterthought. And so for technology to be literally built in at the very conceptual stage rather than kind of shoveled in at the end. We went on to the Integral team, Shane and Alan and David. I thought it was easy topping conversation, but they were actually talking about the real estate retrofitting, which of course is really important, isn't it? Because 80% of our real estate, as they said, will still be here in 2050. And so if we're on that journey to net zero, we're going to be doing that in buildings that we already have, that are not smart buildings at the moment, that are not teched up, that are not, passive house carbon zero to start with. So actually looking at retrofitting is going to be massive for us in FM, isn't it? Most of our portfolio is already built. A really good takeaway from that session actually was that even in the buildings that you have, without doing anything terribly fancy with it, you can achieve a 15 to 25% reduction in energy consumption just by smarter use of the tools and technology that are already in there. So if you're looking for actions, one of those is going to be, what can we already do with the tech we have? We've seen some sexy new toys, but what can we do with the stuff that is already there? We then had Peter Rago from Flowscape and Claire Callan from WSP talking again about a CO2 reduction, a new approach to saving energy, experimenting with differing set points for heating on emptier days, that interface of behaviour and technology that is where the savings are going to come. Really great piece of advice there about think big, but start small and begin with a pilot. Really good advice for any kind of new technology, isn't it? Think about a really big outcome, but give it a try first, and really think about how it's going to interplay with human behaviour. That was a really good case study of how those two things would work together. We then had Marcus Sontheimer from ISS talking about building a high-tech future, hearing about how ISS have built their technology strategy, the right digital apps, stable, cyber secure, and talking about an ecosystem rather than this one-size-fits-all fantastic thing, that it's an interplay of lots of different technologies together. It's good to hear about what these major FM players are doing, not only to build those digital ecosystems, but also to support innovation, their innovation framework. And again, we had an example to see some of the things that they were doing. We then had Harpreet Cheema from Sodexo talking about new workplace solutions to enhance the employee experience. Again, telling us about another innovation sponsorship, the Sodexo Accelerators. I went along to the presentation panel for that. Some great technology there. Clients want actionable insights. We can make a difference to employees and customers' lives. We need to think about how. Technology is an ally and enabler to support continuity and to optimise our workplace experience. We then had Matt Chapman and Charlotte Coles-Morris from SBFM talking about service management apps. Looping right back to the beginning, they identified the problem they want to solve. And I would say that where they showed those three journeys, the client, the contract manager, and the frontline colleague, and how the technology benefited them, that to me is the perfect way to demonstrate what the technology is actually going to achieve. Here are clients, operative staff, managers. This is what they get out of it. That's a really good way, isn't it, to illustrate what your technology actually brings to the FM piece. And then we had Stefano Bensi from SoftBank Robotics talking about how will FM in the workplace change. The 4 challenges he talked about for the FM sector: the competitive market, the low margins, the recruitment problems, the need to show proof. How can technology help with those? The key to success is going to be integration. FM is traditionally a late adopter of new technologies, and perhaps we need to get a bit better at that. It was good also to see a little bit about the winning entry for the FM award. SoftBank do have a lot of the cool robots, and you can see them scampering around on their website, if a robot can scamper. And then we finished with Mike Camp, my colleague, riding the technology roller coaster. We're looking for that personal, emotional response to things, so it loops us right back around to connection, to the interface between the people and the technology, the problems that we're trying to solve. What is this technology for, and how does it link into the stories? Finishing with saying we need to make sure FM doesn't end up on the sidelines. We want to be inspiring our clients, not the guys that fix the robots. So before I come to the call to action and the thank yous, just to summarise some of the key points that we've seen today, we talked about the gap between technical possibility and the current reality of many workplaces and FM roles. We talked about that upcoming shift as space reduces, and we see that flight to quality. We talked about half the space, twice the experience, and how we're going to achieve that. That new technology takes a long time to come to our sector, and you don't know at the start which ones are going to be transformational, so you need to be open to lots of possibilities. Data needs to travel its journey like oil. It needs to go from data to become information, to become knowledge, to drive actions that achieve outcomes, which loops you right back to the question of what problem are you trying to solve. I've just got some thank yous, very briefly, all of the speakers, the sponsors, of course, the organising programming support team, especially Dave Horrell, Ian, David and Elliot, the IT camera and mic support. I'd like to thank the venue and their team. We're moving our drinks into the library. You could thank the team in person if you see any of them. We'd like to thank you, the audience, including all of our colleagues and friends online. We'd like to thank all of the devices and 7 of 9 who are supporting us. That is a new thank you. Never made that one before. And don't forget the charity appeal for Parkinson's UK, either to donate parkinsons.org.uk or to light up blue on your buildings on the 11th of April 2023 for World Parkinson's Day. So as ever, I finish with a call to action. Oh, yes, I have. Did I thank you at the beginning? Of course, I would thank Martin for chairing.
Get on with it.
I was going to finish entirely with thanking Martin at the end. But thank you, Martin, for chairing wonderfully again. So our call to action. If 95.5% of FM data collected isn't used, what are we going to do about that? Actions speak louder than dashboards, so ask yourself these questions. How will you answer that so what? What problem are you trying to solve? When you're looking at a technology, who will benefit? This will help you to determine the return on investment. And think about what makes us human, as this will help to tell you not just where technology adds value, but where being human is going to add value as well. And that's our little taster for next year. Thank you all for coming. Wine is out there. Thank you, Martin. Thank you to everyone for attending, and we look forward to seeing you next year.